The sun represents the core self, ego, conscious will, vitality, and life purpose, the who I am. Ketu, the south node of the moon, represents the past, what is already mastered, the comfort zone, former identities, and paradoxically, a point of potential detachment or neglect in the current life. When one person's sun forms a challenging square to the other person's Ketu, it creates a powerful and often frustrating karmic link. The relationship is a crucible designed to force both individuals to confront the shadow of a past life dynamic that was either incomplete, misused, or avoided. The dynamic of the square aspect signifies a tension that requires action and a crisis that demands resolution. Ketu person's role. The Ketu person embodies the past life energy, habits, and comfort zone of the sun person's core identity. They may unconsciously trigger the sun person's past life talents, but also the stagnation and over-reliance associated with Ketu. The Ketu person might feel the sun person's energy is either too blinding, demanding, or conversely, they may feel a strange, draining detachment from the sun person's efforts. Sun person's experience. The sun person's need for conscious self-expression, ego validation, and personal will is challenged, blocked, or obscured by the Ketu person. The sun person may feel unseen or undermined, like their efforts to shine are constantly being dismissed or missed by the Ketu person, who is preoccupied with a past life focus. A familiar drain. A strange sense of comfort and familiarity that, over time, feels like a regression or a drain on their vitality and forward movement. Ego crisis. The Ketu person may unconsciously represent the area where the sun person must let go of an outdated ego identity from a past incarnation. 2. Core karmic lessons. This aspect brings several profound lessons, primarily centered on ego, detachment, and conscious direction. The lesson of detachment versus recognition, Ketu versus sun. In a past life, the sun person may have been overly focused on the energy represented by the Ketu person, leading to an imbalance of power, a lack of independence, or an over-identification with the past role, represented by the Ketu sign/house. The debt. The karmic lesson is for the sun person to learn conscious, self-directed purpose without the validation or involvement of the Ketu person. The challenge. The sun person is pulled back into the old, comfortable ego patterns by the mere presence of the Ketu person. The friction of the square forces the sun person to break free from this outgrown identity and stand alone. The lesson of conscious will, the square's action. The square aspect is a crisis of growth. The tension forces a resolution that cannot be found by continuing the status quo. For the sun person, they must learn to assert their will and express their identity differently than they did in the past. They must recognize where the Ketu person's influence is tempting them into an old, limiting comfort zone. The square demands that the sun person stop seeking to be or relate to the Ketu person in the old way, and instead chart a completely new course for their conscious self. For the Ketu person, their lesson is to release their hold, often unconscious, on the sun person's ego and life direction. They must understand that their role is to facilitate the closure of the past pattern, not its repetition. They must learn to value the sun person's new direction, north node/Rahu direction, and not drag them back to the comfort of the past, Ketu. Integration of Rahu north node. Ketu is always opposed by Rahu the north node, the point of future growth and destiny. The sun square Ketu implies that the sun person's current life path, sun, is in conflict with the easy past life identity, Ketu. The resolution. The relationship serves to push the sun person away from the Ketu patterns and towards their Rahu lessons. The friction created by the square acts as the engine for this forward momentum. The partnership may only be fulfilling or sustainable to the degree that both individuals commit to the Rahu direction for the sun person. 3. Manifestation in the relationship. In a relationship setting, this aspect often manifests as a pattern of frustration and on-again, off-again intensity manifestations and karmic correction in partnership. The square aspect ensures that the unresolved tension from the past life is not merely a background hum but a constant, active friction. This dynamic surfaces in predictable ways that, when recognized, point directly toward the necessary karmic adjustments. 1. The conflict of identity and purpose, sun person's challenge. The sun represents the conscious direction and vitality. When squared by Ketu, the sun person often feels that their drive and self-expression are constantly being intercepted or undermined by the Ketu partner, often without malicious intent from the Ketu person. Manifestation. The Sun person may experience recurring moments where their ambition, creative efforts, or sense of self are met with the Ketu person's detachment, indifference, or a deep-seated lack of recognition. For example, if the Sun person launches a new business, Sun's purpose, the Ketu person might unconsciously minimize the effort, fail to show up, or cling to an old, familiar identity for the Sun person. Why don't you just stick to what you were good at before? This triggers an acute ego crisis. Karmic correction. The Sun person's lesson is to achieve absolute self-reliance in their current purpose. They must cease the unconscious habit of seeking validation or permission for their existence from the Ketu partner. The friction forces the Sun to realize that true self-worth, Sun, is internal, not relational. They must choose their current life path, Rahu/North Node direction, over the comfortable, familiar drag of the past, Ketu. 2. The lure of regression and the drain. Ketu person's role. Ketu represents the path of least resistance, what the soul has mastered and is now meant to detach from. The Ketu person, by their very presence, acts as a powerful energetic magnet, pulling the Sun person back into their shared past life pattern. Manifestation. The Ketu partner may unintentionally feel like an energetic drain on the Sun person's vitality. The relationship can become stagnant, defined by comfortable routines that prevent new growth. The Sun person may feel they are sacrificing their future potential for the sake of the relationship's comfort. Furthermore, the Ketu person may experience the Sun person's efforts to shine as intrusive or aggressive, because they are unsettling the established, past life, equilibrium. Karmic correction. The Ketu person's primary task is conscious release. They must recognize that their connection to the Sun partner is tied to the past, and that true love in this incarnation requires them to support the Sun partner's future path. This means actively encouraging the Sun person's new endeavors, even if those endeavors feel strange or unfamiliar. The Ketu person must learn to achieve true detachment from the Sun person's identity, allowing their partner to move freely toward their Rahu destiny. 3. The resolution of conflict through separation and boundaries. The square demands a complete overhaul of the dynamic, often requiring an emotional or literal separation from the old interaction style. Manifestation. The relationship is marked by high-tension arguments that focus on power struggles and misunderstanding of motives. The Sun person feels their motives are blocked. The Ketu person feels misunderstood or overwhelmed by the Sun's intensity. These conflicts are usually repetitive and centered around where the Sun person is trying to progress. Karmic correction. The resolution lies in establishing clear, non-negotiable boundaries that protect the integrity of the Sun person's conscious goals. For the relationship to evolve karmically, the partners must stop trying to force the other into the old mold. They must consciously agree to honor the Sun person's forward-moving Rahu path and allow the Ketu energy to dissipate. If the dynamic is too draining, the karmic correction may necessitate a physical or permanent emotional separation, concluding the past life contract that the square activated. Conclusion. Transcending the past. The Sun square Ketu Synastry aspect is one of the most demanding contracts for soul growth. It is a relationship designed to teach the Sun person the painful yet ultimately freeing lesson of self-sufficiency and the rejection of outdated identity structures. It simultaneously teaches the Ketu person the virtue of selfless release and forward-looking acceptance. By facing the square's friction and correcting the manifestations outlined above, both partners can transform the tension of the past into the fuel for future spiritual evolution, thereby concluding the ancient karmic debt. Conclusion. The Sun square Ketu Synastry aspect is a powerful indicator of a karmic cleanup mission. It is not a soft, easy connection, but a difficult one designed for profound soul growth. The ultimate lesson is for the Sun person to utilize the friction of the square to consciously cut ties with an old, outdated ego identity represented by the Ketu person. For the Ketu person, the lesson is one of surrender and release, allowing the Sun person to move forward toward their true, present life purpose without the anchor of the past. The goal is not to repeat the past, but to fully integrate the mastery of Ketu into the conscious new direction of the Sun/Rahu axis, thereby achieving a genuine sense of conscious self-mastery and release from the karmic bond. Subscribe to KarmicSynastry channel for profound healing analyses on karmic debts and lessons.